I swear to you, that thing inside the drum was not human. It screamed like something being born and dying at the same time. The kind of scream that makes your blood stop moving. It was around midnight. I was 17. And that night, I broke the rule that my grandmother told me since I was a child, never walk near the old drummer's compound after dark. I was born in a small village in southern Nigeria. The kind of place where the night is thick and silence feels alive. We didn't have street lights. The moon was the only thing watching us. My grandmother raised me. She was a strict woman, never smiled much, and always had one eye on the bush. She used to say, "Not everything in this village is meant to be seen. Some things walk backwards. Some things hide in plain sight." I thought she was just being dramatic, the way old people tell stories to scare children. But I was wrong. There was a compound at the edge of the village. It belonged to a man called Okonkwo, the old drummer. Nobody knew his age. He didn't talk to anyone. He lived alone. He only came out during the New Yam festival, when he would beat this giant drum that sounded like thunder. But something about his drumming was not right. It didn't make people dance. It made people freeze. Like the sound could reach into your bones. The elders respected him, but they never looked him in the eye. My grandmother told me to always greet him with my head bowed and never speak unless he speaks first. The week before everything happened, I noticed something strange. Every night, around the same time, I would hear drumming. Soft at first, like it was coming from far away. Then louder, like it was right behind our compound wall. But there was no festival. No moon dance. Just drumming. My grandmother would light her lamp and start praying in whispers. She told me not to ask questions. But I was curious. And stupid. One night, I couldn't sleep. The drumming came again. Louder than ever. It sounded like it was coming from the old drummer's compound. My heart was beating hard, but something pulled me. I don't know why. I left the house. I wore my slippers and wrapped myself in my wrapper. I didn't even light a torch. I just followed the sound. My feet moved like they weren't mine. The village was dead silent except for that drum. Boom. 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 Like a heartbeat. But not steady. It skipped. It staggered. Like something was inside it, trying to get out. When I reached the compound, I stopped. The gate was open. That place always gave me chills. It was built from red mud and had carvings on the walls. The kind that looked like faces. The compound was full of broken pots and feathers. I didn't see Okonkwo anywhere. But the drumming was coming from inside. I stepped in. There was a fire burning low in the middle of the compound. And right there, in front of the fire, was the drum. It was huge. Taller than a man. Covered in black goat skin. And it was moving. Not shaking. Moving. Like something was crawling inside it. I froze. My legs refused to move. The drumming didn't stop. It was louder now. Angry. Fast. My ears rang. I felt something thick crawl down my spine. Then it stopped. Just like that. Silence. And then the worst thing happened. The top of the drum opened. Not like someone lifted the skin. No. It peeled back. Like skin tearing off flesh. And from inside, a hand came out. But it wasn't a human hand. It was too long. The fingers were thin, almost like bones wrapped in dark skin. The nails were sharp and yellow. The hand touched the ground and another followed. And then it began to crawl out. I still can't explain what I saw properly. It looked like a woman, but also not a woman. Her face was covered with cloth. Her hair was full of cowries. Her legs were bent the wrong way. And her skin was moving. Like worms were crawling under it. She didn't look at me. She just sat in front of the drum and began to hum. The song was old. I knew it from my childhood. It was a lullaby. One my mother used to sing before she died. That's when I ran. I didn't care that my legs were numb. I ran until my chest burned. When I got home, my grandmother was waiting at the door. She didn't ask me anything. She just looked at me and said, "You have seen her." My grandmother didn't scold me. She didn't beat me. She just turned and walked back into the house. I followed her, shaking. My wrapper was soaked with sweat. I felt like I had stepped into a place I wasn't supposed to know existed. She locked the door behind us and started throwing white chalk on the floor, drawing signs. I didn't understand any of it. She muttered words in a language I had never heard her speak before. It didn't sound like Yoruba or Igbo or anything I knew. It was older. Rough. Like stones grinding against each other. She told me not to speak of what I saw. Not to describe it. Not to whisper it. She said, if you give it shape with words, it will follow the shape and find you. I didn't sleep that night. Or the next. But I couldn't stop thinking about it, the drum, the woman, the song. My mother's lullaby. That was the part that hurt most. My mother had died when I was 10. Nobody knew what killed her. She went into the forest one day and never came back. They found her slippers by the path, but no blood, no body. Just silence. Now I was hearing her lullaby coming from a thing that climbed out of a drum. The next morning, I asked my grandmother what that woman was. She looked at me like I had asked to die. She said, "She is not a woman. She was never a woman. She wears a woman's skin." Then she told me something I will never forget. Before this village had names, there was a song. And in that song lived a spirit. People used to call her Mother of Echoes. She answered voices. Copied them. Became them. She didn't know her own face, so she took faces from others. She loved music. Especially the drum. When a child died, and the mother cried at night, she would come to the mother's window and sing the child's voice back to her. Not to comfort, but to feed. Sorrow was food to her. That's when I realized what the drum was. It wasn't an instrument. It was a prison. Or maybe a house. A body. I asked her what Okonkwo had to do with it. She looked sad. He was a keeper. A long time ago, before he was old, he was chosen by the elders. His job was to keep her quiet. The drum must be played every moon, or she wakes. She listens to sorrow, and sorrow brings her strength. She's tied to this land. And as long as the drum beats, she sleeps. But someone, she said, has stopped playing. I remembered something. The last New Yam festival had been cancelled because of heavy rain. Okonkwo didn't play. The drum didn't sound. And a few weeks later, I heard it for the first time. It made sense. The lullaby, the drum moving, the hand crawling out. She was waking. I asked my grandmother what would happen now. She didn't answer. She just started packing. Small bags, dried food, a calabash of water. She said we had to leave. We can't stay. The drum has opened. But we didn't get the chance. That night, the screaming started. It began around midnight. A sharp cry, like a woman giving birth. Then another. Then another. People ran outside. I did too. I couldn't help myself. There were people on the ground. Their eyes open wide. Their mouths stretched. But no sound. No breath. Just stillness. Then I saw Okonkwo. He was standing in the middle of the village square, holding a small talking drum. Not the big one. A smaller one, the kind griots use. He was beating it slowly. His face was wet with tears. Behind him stood the woman. Same hair. Same cloth-covered face. Same backward legs. She was dancing. But it wasn't dancing like we do. It was jerky, broken, like her bones were too loose. With each beat of the drum, she moved. With each movement, another person fell. Okonkwo looked at me once. Just once. And mouthed something I will never forget. "Forgive me." Then the drum stopped. And the woman turned to me. She didn't move fast. She just stared. Or I think she did. Her face was still covered, but I could feel her eyes under the cloth. Like heat on the back of my neck. The kind of stare that knows things about you. Things you've forgotten. Things you've buried. I wanted to run, but my legs locked again. I couldn't blink. Couldn't breathe. Then she tilted her head, slowly, like a curious animal. And in a voice that didn't match her body, she said, "You called me." It was my mother's voice. My knees buckled. I dropped to the ground, shaking. My grandmother was beside me in a flash, throwing white chalk in a circle around us, spitting 3 times, and saying, "Turn your face. Don't answer. Don't speak." I kept my head down. I didn't say a word. But the voice kept going. "You were crying? I heard you. Don't you miss me, my child?" It was cruel. Too cruel. I felt tears come. Not from sadness, but fear. This thing was using my mother's voice like a mask. Then I heard footsteps. Not walking, scraping. Like claws dragging on dry mud. She came closer. My grandmother held my hand and whispered, "No matter what you hear, do not look up." Then it got worse. The voice changed again. Now it was my own voice. "You're scared, aren't you?" it said, mocking. "You think you're special. You think you're chosen. You are food." I gritted my teeth, holding my breath. Then, just like that, it stopped. The air shifted. It felt cold, even though the night was hot. And then I heard her walking away. I waited until the sound was completely gone. Then I opened my eyes. The village square was empty. Except for the bodies. 7 people. All dead. Eyes open. No blood. No wounds. Just silence. Okonkwo was gone. So was she. We went back inside, locked every door, and my grandmother did not sleep that night. She just sat by the window, facing the bush, holding a string of cowries and muttering. By morning, the elders came. They saw the bodies. They didn't speak. Just looked at one another and nodded. They knew. They always knew. But nobody wanted to admit it. Later that day, we had a village meeting. Everyone came, even people who usually didn't. Chief Duro, the oldest man in the village, stood and said, "The drum has broken. And the hunger has returned." He told a story. Long ago, a woman was cursed by her own mother. She had killed her twin brother out of jealousy. She stole his voice so she could be praised for his songs. Her mother found out and cursed her to never know her own voice again. To only live by stealing the voices of others. She became a thing of sorrow, wandering into dreams, into sounds. Feeding on pain, wearing faces. She was sealed into a drum by the first priest of the land, using 7 names and a blood sacrifice. Every full moon, the drum must be played with respect, to remind her of her prison. If not, she will remember herself. She will wake. And she will walk. The elders said there was only one way to stop her now, someone must enter the drum. Not to play it. To trap her again. But it required 2 things, a blood relative of the last keeper, Okonkwo, and a voice that she had stolen. Nobody knew if Okonkwo had any family left. Except me. That night, my grandmother told me something that broke me all over again. Okonkwo is your grandfather. I didn't believe her at first. Okonkwo. That strange old man with the haunted eyes. My grandfather. My grandmother nodded slowly. She had never told me about my father. Only said he left before I was born. That he was from Saro. Now I understood. She said Okonkwo's son, my father, ran from his duty. He didn't want to inherit the drum. He left the village, married my mother in a town far away. But something followed him. Something dark. When my mother disappeared, I was brought here. Back to where it all started. I was the blood link. And now, I was the only one who could end it. The next full moon was in 2 days. The elders gathered in secret. The air in the village changed. No more laughter. No more music. Even the birds were quiet. That night, I heard the drumming again. Not from the square. From inside our house. I sat up in bed, heart pounding. My grandmother was already awake, standing at the door. She's calling you, she whispered. She knows you now. The drum beat was soft. Like a heartbeat heard through a wall. I walked to the door. I didn't want to. But something inside me knew I had to see. We stepped outside. There she was. Standing in front of our compound, her body half in shadow, half in moonlight. Her cloth face turned toward me. Her body twitching slightly, like it was glitching. And she was humming. That same lullaby. This time, she was using my grandmother's voice. Come, child, she said. I miss you. I miss your small hands. I looked up at my grandmother. Her eyes were wet, but her face was hard. She's testing you. She wants you to step into her rhythm. Don't. You step, you die. The woman tilted her head again and said, you will come to me, one way or another. The drum remembers. Then she vanished. Just like that. Gone. My grandmother fell to her knees and began to weep. The next day, the elders prepared the ritual. It had not been done in over 100 years. Everything had to be exact. 7 white chalk circles. A gourd of palm wine laced with bitter cola and ashes. A goat sacrificed at the drum's base. And me. I had to walk into the compound, enter the drum, and call her by her true name. Only a blood relative could speak the name. Only someone whose voice had not yet been stolen. But here's the part nobody understood: if she took my voice before I got inside, it would all be over. That night, the village was silent. Even the insects were quiet. I walked alone to the old compound. The drum was there, just like before. Taller than a man. Skin stretched tight. Black and breathing. The fire was low. Shadows danced like spirits. I stepped into the circle. My grandmother watched from a distance, holding a gourd of ashes. I took a deep breath. And then I knocked on the drum. Once. Twice. 3 times. The sound echoed like thunder in a well. Then the skin peeled back again. And she stepped out. Same shape. Same terrible beauty. She looked at me and said, "You are mine now. Your voice is already in me." I shook my head. And I said her name. I don't know how I knew it. It came from somewhere inside me, like it was planted there before I was born. I said it loud. 3 times. She screamed. The sound cracked the night like lightning. And then she rushed toward me. I stood still. I didn't run. She charged at me like a shadow with bones, hands stretched, fingers like blades. Her feet didn't touch the ground. Her legs moved backward, but she still came forward, like the world bent to her. I closed my eyes and shouted her name again. This time, the sound shook the ground. I felt her cold fingers brush my chest, and then everything went still. No wind. No sound. Just a deep, strange quiet, like being underwater. I opened my eyes. She was frozen, her hand inches from my face. Her cloth mask had fallen off. What I saw still wakes me at night. Her face was not a face. It was a swirling mess of mouths. Not eyes. Not nose. Just mouths, tiny ones, large ones, twisted lips, whispering all at once. Some laughed. some cried. Some called out for help. I recognized voices. I heard my mother. I heard children. I heard myself. And then I understood. She had taken all those voices and kept them. Wore them. Fed on them. But now, her body was frozen. The name had power. The old kind of power. The kind people forgot when they stopped believing in stories. I stepped forward. And I climbed into the drum. Inside, it was dark. Not just dark, but empty. Like falling into a hole that never ended. But then I saw light. And in the center of that light was a small boy. He looked up at me. His eyes were wide. He said nothing. Just looked. Then I realized it was my father. As a child. He opened his mouth, and I heard the lullaby. Not the cassette version. The real one. The soft one. The one my mother used to sing when she was alive. It filled the space like smoke, wrapping around the air. Then the voices came. One by one, they floated in the dark. Faces without bodies. Eyes full of sorrow. They surrounded me. And then, they started to fade. I heard them whisper, "Thank you." I understood what I had to do. I sat down in the middle of the drum. I held the light in my hand. And I spoke the name one final time. But this time, I didn't speak it with fear. I spoke it with purpose. The drum began to shake. Outside, I could hear screams. The villagers were watching. The earth cracked. The sky turned red. The woman shrieked her final scream. And then, silence. I woke up 3 days later. The drum was gone. Turned to ash. The bodies in the square had vanished. No graves. No signs. The elders told me I had done it. I had sealed her. But the price was heavy. I couldn't speak. My voice gone. Not stolen. Just spent. Used up. I leave you with this. If you ever hear a drumbeat that doesn't match your heartbeat, don't follow it. Don't answer it. And whatever you do, don't speak her name. Because she's waiting. And next time, she might not need a drum. She might come walking. Just like before. Tilting her head. Wearing someone else's voice. Maybe even yours.